WildFed is brought to you by Surthrival. Check out surthrival.com for a full line of nutritional support products. Now's a good time of year to start thinking about building up your immune system as we head into winter. Surthrival's line of medicinal mushroom formulas are the best in the industry, and their colostrum product. And colostrum's been shown to have very broadly antiviral properties, including against the flu. It's part of my daily morning smoothie. It's the ingredient that I use to tie everything together. It's also a good time of year to invest in a vitamin D formula as we descend into the darker part of the year. And Surthrival has an excellent vitamin D3, so check that out as well. You can find it all at surthrival.com. I'm Daniel Vitalis, and you're listening to the WildFed podcast, a show about reconnecting with nature through hunting, fishing, foraging, and food. WildFed. Food is all around you. Hey, welcome back to the WildFed podcast. I've got a great Fireside episode for you today, featuring a few really good friends and colleagues of mine. It was recorded as we were wrapping up filming for episode 3 of season 1 of WildFed. That show is all about a fishing trip we took in the North Maine Woods in the late spring of last year. This episode is fun, it's funny, but it's also educational too. If you want to learn more about the WildFed video show, head over to wild-fed.com where you can see the trailer for episode 3. It'll give you some visuals to go with the voices you hear in this podcast, and you'll learn about how you can see the entire season. The next episode of the podcast, episode 3, will feature my friend Deb Perkins. She's a career wildlife biologist who specialized in work with black bears and did some work with Alaskan brown bears too. So that's an awesome conversation. Remember, new episodes of the podcast are released every Tuesday. So go ahead and subscribe to the show. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. Thank you so much for listening, and now enjoy the rest of the show. We are at an undisclosed location in the North Woods of Maine. This is Daniel Vitalis, host of the WildFed podcast, and to my left is
Arthur Haines.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing here.
Briefly, I am a plant biologist and an ancestral skills instructor. I teach foraging and medicinal plants and things of that nature, and I'm here for Whitefish.
Mm-hmm. And next in line is?
I'm Sara Moore, and I'm also here for Whitefish. And I'm also here for Arthur Haines.
Oh, nice. And to your left is?
My name's Bill Orne. People call me William. People call me Bill. I'm a master Maine guide here at Ross Lake Camps. Been here for 13 years. I am the person that finds the whitefish.
You do.
But other people call me the togue hunter.
I was going to say, I saw a different name.
Yeah. My primary fish in the lake is togue. I really like to catch them, but I'm going to turn it over to you, Dan.
Well, there's those annoying bycatch to the Heritage Maine brook trout, which unfortunately sometimes you have to bring those in as well. I would like, Arthur, for you to begin by describing a little bit about this ecosystem we're in, what part of the state we're in, and how you describe it if you were talking to maybe another plant biologist or somebody else who works in Maine's, ecological sciences.
Yeah, it's a good intro, Daniel, because all the different people here would give a different discussion of where we are. But again, briefly, we're in northwestern Maine. We're in a boreal ecosystem. And whereas a lot of Maine is a transitional ecotone, it would be called, from a more southern forest to these northern forests that become more predominated by evergreen species like fir and spruce, where we still have birches and mountain ashes and maples and things of that nature here. But we're a lot further north where most of the people in Maine live. And as a result of that, cooler mean annual temperatures, we run into all kinds of animals that the people who spend time here a lot, like Bill, get to see frequently. In particular, the moose, right? We saw 4 on the drive in. But the plant life is different. the fish that are found in the lakes, while yes, brook trout are found in other parts of the state, the most amazing thing about where we're at is we're talking about self-sustaining wild populations.
Yeah,
unstocked populations. And it's this, I think of it as this little keyhole that we look through to what this landscape was like many centuries ago. And so it feels just amazing and primal to be in this part of the world.
Sara, what'd you say about being up here?
Pressure's on.
Pressure's on.
Guys, I just really like whitefish.
But for real.
What you said? Minus the caribou.
Which would have been here probably
Formerly on this landscape.
part of their historic range.
Absolutely.
And the wolf.
And
the Wolverine.
mountain lion.
And the mountain lion.
Yeah.
Wow, it's changed here.
Tall.
And that's I think one of the things that I like so much about it is we have lost some of the northern mammals, but some of the northern fish this place still has.
Absolutely.
And so we get that experience that I just love. And I know one of the things that Sara is loving about this part of the world is, Bill, what do you think the people per square mile is here?
Oh, very, very minimal. I mean,
we're looking at them right now.
This is everybody. On a given hot day in the summertime, you might have 20. You might have 20. You're very, very lucky if you had 20.
And that's amazing.
It is amazing. I roll back to when I first started coming to the North Maine Woods, probably 1987, 88. What it was like, why I came here. Why did I come that many years ago? I was in, late teens, early 20s. I came for the fish. The fishing was really, really good. Was able to get into a lifestyle and a job that once I came here as a young fella, I learned what it was like.
Were you born in Maine?
I was born in Maine.
So you're an actual Mainer.
Yeah. I was born on the coast. I was born in Rockland, grew up in Owl's Head. But I came up here to catch big fish, and I caught big fish. And I was like, and then somebody told me, if you get a guide's license, you can go do this and you can make a living at it. All right, no, that's pretty cool. So, I pursued it, and I did. I pursued my guide's license, and it was like, all right, cool. I can take people out, and they can get the same enjoyment that I had catching those big fish. Well, as years progressed, everything changes. The cutting practices in the North Maine Woods have changed. The watersheds have changed because of the cutting practices. The climate has changed. Acid rain. A lot of things have fluctuated. The fishing is still good in the North Maine Woods. There's no question. The big fish are still here. They aren't like they were, 60 years ago. But the abundance of fish in the North Maine Woods is still here. The quality of fish is still here.
The genetics are here, too.
The genetics are here. They've always been here. It's a place where, like you mentioned earlier, that it's all natural. There's nothing the state does other than, to patrol the lakes, to make sure people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But the reproduction of the lakes are what it is.
And every generation's big fish is different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was thinking, what was it like 60 years before
That's
that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I hear stories. I had the opportunity 2 weeks or a week and a half ago before you guys got here. I had a guy stop in my boat on an early afternoon and sat in my seat, and he said, I'm 94 years old. And I looked at him and was like, okay.
What's your secret?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look like you're 80, 85. I'm giving him a few years, but he was in really good shape. I took him trolling. We trolled for 3.5 hours. We boated a couple lake trout. The biggest was 6.5 pounds. And,
wow.
But the stories that man told me, he said, I've been coming to the woods for 50 years. Yeah. He landed up at Clayton Lake before there was any other roads other than coming through Quebec to get to Clayton Lake.
Oh, interesting.
He flew into Wadley Pond, which you can drive to and launch a boat at today.
Right.
The stories the man had was unbelievable. And he fished Ross Lake when you had to leave Clayton Lake and come down into Ross by canoe.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it was really cool. You know, go after a big lake trout. A big lake trout back then was 8-10 pounds.
Whoa.
You know, and the whitefish. He said the whitefish were pretty much substantial to what they are today.
So that's an interesting point. The whitefish population has been relatively stable here,
Correct.
not throughout the state, which we'll get into in a minute.
Right.
But here, the fish you would have been catching 60 years ago would have looked similar in
Correct.
size
That
and
is what
weight.
that
to
is
these fish
exactly
today.
what he told me.
That's really encouraging to hear, actually, because I know that that's not the case with most of the fish here. I want to back up a minute and talk about how we arrived here, and we'll get to some of your backstory, how you got
absolutely.
here as well. But obviously, Bill, you're a guide here, and you work here, and we are the foreigners right now. And this all started. I'll let Arthur tell the story, but this all started about probably sometime last year. It was before winter, obviously, because you came up here last winter for the first time. And it started with a conversation you and I were having about targeting fish in the state. You and I had been discussing a lot about how the fisheries that are more prevalent down where we are in the southern part of the state are hatchery-supported fisheries. They've been genetically polluted by fish from, and I say that, I mean, yeah, I don't mean to. I understand why fish are stocked, of course, but these fish are not just Maine fish that have been stocked in. These are fish from all over the country.
It's still not ideal.
It's not ideal.
We wish it could be
So
different.
we're fishing in places where, even though I like to target wild brook trout, there's no way for me to know if those wild brook trout have been genetically polluted by hatchery fish from Pennsylvania or from who knows where, from the southern Appalachia or whatever. Okay, so you and I were discussing what fish we'd like to target in the state. I'll let you take it from there.
Well, Daniel mentions that he had been doing some research and he just ran across this line.
No. You asked me. You said if there was one fish in the state that you could
what would you-
target, what do you want to go after next?
But Daniel said whitefish. Lake whitefish, to be specific. And it was based on reading this passage where this guy described, an author of a fishing book, described whitefish as the best ever. And of course,
According to eating,
eating.
best flesh.
Period.
Yeah.
It's
It is.
and
The wild
and
chicken nugget.
yeah, and of course, though you hear that, and it's like I'm very partial to brook trout. That's what I grew up on, and smelts.
Not anymore.
and we're like, okay, everybody has their favorite fish because there are people who say smallmouth bass are the most amazing fish and crappie are the most amazing fish, and everybody's got their favorite. So it's like, but you know what? It's in the salmon family. It's a cold water fish. There are these wild populations in Maine. It would be so awesome. Let's go. And unfortunately, the scheduling worked out because we tried to do it kind of last minute, like, let's do this. And it didn't work out that Daniel could visit. So Sarah and
This
I
is
came
winter fishing. We're talking
Yeah,
hard
we're
water.
ice fishing.
And you wanted to come up here and ice fish. And I was really into coming, but it just didn't work out that I could make it.
Right.
I think I had to be in the Bahamas or something.
something stupid that, which you'll notice he'll cancel the trip now after coming here.
I hope he does.
Yeah, but we came up and fished, and long story short, a person who has been to this lake many times prepared the fish for us more as like a breaded tender that they cooked in enough fat so that it was not deep fried specifically, but it was crispy and there's no fish flavor. You think you're eating the most tender chicken.
I got to pick up the story here.
Please.
Okay, so Arthur and Sarah come up here and they fish through the ice. They catch some whitefish. I'm a little bit jealous, but I'm feeling, excited for them a little bit, even though I'm wishing I'd been there. And they say, you know what? We saved you a couple of fillets of the whitefish. This is the kind of friends these are, right? We are foodies. We take care of each other, and we believe in
share
community.
wild food.
We share our food. So they say we saved you some whitefish. We froze it. We're going to bring it down. We've been told it doesn't freeze well, but we want to bring it down for you and Ivani to try it, and we plan a dinner at my house. They come down, and it's just thawed out, and they are going to take it off the skin, right? I believe you had
You had whole fish
We
at that time?
removed. Yeah, that's right. We removed the fillet,
Yeah, so you fillet the fish out.
but there's 2 steps still to go.
Yep, you want to skin it and you want to cut that V out to take those pin bones out.
Sorry.
So as they start doing this fish has turned to mush. He's trying to take it off the skin, and it's more like you're
Sloughing.
scraping. Yeah, you're sloughing it off, right? It's like you're scraping pudding off a piece of
And
saran
it's like,
wrap.
but
Is how
Daniel,
it's
no,
coming
but
off.
Daniel, it's
And he's like, yeah, and I'm just like I'm honestly not that interested. I'm in my head, I'm thinking it's a salmonid. It's gonna taste like trout. They've been telling me all these stories, and I'm going like, whatever. I've had brook trout, I've had salmon, I've had brown trout.
Lake
it's
trout,
like, I've had lake trout. It's gonna taste something like a trout, and so they are. Then it's time to get the pin bones out. It's not working. Sarah goes at it. At first, I think with a pair of tweezers or was it a Leatherman or something?
What did you use, Sarah, to get them out?
Anyway,
Your
then
fingers?
you go with your fingers, and now by the time it's done, there's just a slop.
The flesh is firm enough when it's fresh that you can do all this wonderful filleting, but frozen, it's. And I'm like,
don't think it can be recovered.
I'm like, oh
They're
my
getting
God.
so embarrassed. I'm watching
'Cause we've
them.
been bragging
Now
about
I'm doing that thing you do with your friends. You're watching your friend get embarrassed. So you're trying to be like, hey, don't worry, it's okay, no big deal. Trying to like support you guys. and
avocado.
Trying to be, yeah, like don't worry, I've got some bear meat. We'll take care of you. Thinking we're gonna I would just want you guys to pull through it because you guys are deep enough in. You're not gonna quit, and I'm
We're
like,
persevering.
I'm mortified for you. Okay, then you end up breading it. You're the best whitefish cook here, Sarah. So you end up breading it.
Thank
You put it in the pan, and I'm just like, at this point, I'm thinking this is already a bust, so I'm not expecting anything. And you serve out what look like little chicken nuggets. I think we had done them did we do them in acorn flour that
Yes.
night? We did
Yeah.
them in my acorn flour. So we fry them up, you serve them out, and I put one in my mouth, and I am whisked away to being like 11 years old at McDonald's with a Happy Meal eating chicken nuggets. I
Like, need some
couldn't
sweet and sour
believe
sauce.
it. It does not taste like fish. It tasted like chicken nuggets to me. And
but the most tender,
juicy.
deconstructed and then put back together.
And you guys are going, it's even better fresh. You're so
I
adamant.
promise.
It's so much better. So that leads to now, here we are in early June at our undisclosed location.
and you're multiple meals
Is it
in
still
now.
undisclosed?
Multiple meals in. We're going to get to it. And we've been eating whitefish. This is our second night in a row. We just had a
ate
great
it for
meal.
breakfast with bacon. We ate it for dinner.
We ate it for lunch yesterday and dinner yesterday.
And actually, I would like to call on Bill here because I want to say this.
Right.
We are a community of people who've been experimenting with wild food for a long time. When I met Arthur, he was pretty deep down that road. I was sort of getting my feet wet with it. We started to really push each other a lot. Sarah has brought I want to say this, like a zeal, a zealotry to it. So it's really pushed us deeper in. Now we're into the WildFed project, so we're doing a lot of this thing. And it's preaching to the choir with us. We're so into it. And tonight, Bill, after a day out on the water with you, you joined us for dinner. And I would just like to get your perspective on tonight's meal, which was, what do we have tonight here? We had
a salad with 4 wild plants in it, whitefish.
Wait, we had with a bear fat vinaigrette.
That's worth mentioning.
Yep.
Whitefish with an acorn flour on it. The
Cooked in bear fat.
venison, flame broiled, and wild rice gathered from Maine waters.
With a mead that had 2 meads. One mead that was wild choke cherry,
Gathered
and
from
the
Maine.
other a suite of wild grapes.
Yep, several different species, all native to
So
Maine.
average person is going, oh, that's going to be weird, and I want to hear from an outside perspective.
Well, believe me, if I put 10 people at this this table tonight, and they all ate it, and if 10 didn't like it, then something's wrong, because it was top shelf, 100% on my level. It was excellent. You guys did an awesome job. Yeah, I mean, if everybody could eat like that, it would be awesome.
And you raved about the salad, Bill.
That was what- yeah, you-
believe me, the
that
salad
really surprised us.
I'm a big salad person. I love greens. Yeah, the salad was die for.
That was cool for us because obviously here you're guiding moose, you're guiding bear,
Yeah.
you're guiding whitefish, lake trout, brook trout. You're familiar with all of these incredible wild meats.
Yep.
So getting to present those to you is not a big deal. It's like, yeah, I eat this all the time.
I do eat a lot of it.
But so for you, we're here going, oh my God, this whitefish. Oh wow, this venison, and you're like, wow, this salad. And to us, the salad's kind of a little old hat. Yeah, that's like old
I
hat
want
for
to know
us.
what's in the salad.
Yeah, that was cool.
It
That was really neat for us to
very
see that.
Good. There's no question.
That made our day, actually.
Absolutely. Good. You guys made my day on the boat. Absolutely.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So Arthur and Sara were out on a borrowed boat today here at the camps, and we went out today. Grant, say hi.
What's up, guys?
Grant's running the soundboard right now. Grant and I went out, did a little filming today on the Togue Hunter. Tell us about your boat, because I walked up to that boat and I was like, this thing is the Swiss Army knife of small lake boats.
Well,
the boat's amazing.
Yeah, it's been in the making. There's no question. I've had the boat since '85.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I bought it.
Is that all?
Actually, the boat's a '65. I bought it from an old gentleman down in Camden in '85.
It's a 16-foot boat?
It's a 16-foot boat, and for years and years, my dad and I fished out of it for years.
What kind of boat is that?
It's a Miracraft, 16-foot Miracraft.
With a little 30 on the back, and then a kicker motor that's what, a 6?
I got a 6-horse kicker on it, and I outfitted it. For quite a few years, we fished lead core, and then we switched over. We put a couple downriggers on it. That was good. I started fishing New York a few years back, and I watched these guys with the big boats, and it's like they're running planer boards. And for years, I ran the clip-on planer boards. It was like,
Now let me just jump in here. For people who don't know what you're talking about, we're talking about downriggers and outriggers. These are ways to get additional rod lines out either further away laterally from the boat or further down below the boat. And out behind it, so that you can fish a spread of lines,
and they're not tangling.
And they're not tangling on top of each other.
Tuning in, just get through this part. If you're like me, and
Wait,
completely uninterested.
say that again, Sara.
For all the women tuning in, if you're like me, just like try and get through this part. Keep
or
listening.
Or guys,
hang in
or
there.
guys,
or guys. I just find women usually.
Jeez.
You might not find it interesting now, but if you come on the boat,
yeah, exactly.
You come on the boat, you're going to say, you know what? Wow, that really makes sense, and it does make sense because to go down and out, and then go out and down, makes sense. Fish, especially fish in this lake, sometimes are motor shy, so we start running side planers. We get them out away from the motor, and like I said earlier, the clip-on boards worked, and they still work. I could fish them today. We'd have caught fish on them. It's just one less thing that we have to deal with when a fish strikes on that line. We got to reel it in, cut the board off. Today, those fish released off those planer boards, off those otter boats.
Yeah, let's describe those. So what you have are these, they're blaze orange. They look like
a little boat, like a toy
boat. Yeah, little something between like a toy boat hull and a surfboard or something.
Yeah, correct.
That floats out to the side. It sort of planes itself out, and the line goes from the rod on the boat out to that planer board, which was, it's got to be 20 yards out to the side?
Yeah, I'd run it probably 60. Yeah, probably 60 feet off the edge.
Okay, so so it's 60 feet out, clips on lightly, and then the line goes out. And when a fish hits it, it comes right off and releases from that thing.
Off,
and now you're fighting that fish right on the rod.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So, with today's technologies, and, whether we go from, today's technologies in the fish finding world, or we go with, lines and lures, everything has changed. The fish have gotten smarter.
Do you really, is that, okay, I just want to back you up and I want to say.
I do.
You believe what you just said?
I do.
You really believe that?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
You think they've just seen it all?
I do.
And you think then genetically they kind of get it at this point? Because
I don't know if it's
it'd be like passed on, or they've just seen it.
I really think a lot of fish are boat shy. I really think in this lake, even though this lake doesn't get a lot of pressure, the further out, the further down you can get from these fish, the better you're going to do.
So if
I've seen it. I've been here long enough to see it. What's that?
Yeah, right. What's that?
You're saying they're boat shy. I was just making a joke. Like, are they smarter, or are we just
Well, no, I think
stealth
I think a
and
lot of it.
not-
I think a lot of it is boat noise. There's a lot
It's
of
got to
it's-
be like
and-
if
and
you.
motor noise.
I could be really hungry if you put a hamburger
Well-
out on a plate in the middle of a 6-lane highway. I'd have to get real hungry to
Right,
want to walk
exactly.
out there, sit there, and eat
Well,
it. You know.
Here we go back today. We were trolling along, and out of the blue, I mentioned to you. I said, look at the downriggers. I said I changed. You buy a standard downrigger. It comes with stainless steel cable, probably 150 feet, 200 feet of cable on it. It's all stainless steel. You put a 10-pound weight on it, drop it down in the water, hook your line on it, you troll away. All of a sudden, how do you get rid of that? If I can hear it in the driver's seat, I know the fish.
Especially they got that whole auditory lateral line,
Absolutely.
right? Just picking up
Absolutely. So what do?
Mm-hmm.
You put 100 feet of braid on it.
quiet it right down.
You didn't hear any hum today. There's no cable hum.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe the fish are just trying to outsmart us. Maybe I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, they're trying not to die. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I would assume. I would assume they want to stay alive.
It's yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about this fish, lake whitefish. And Arthur, I'm curious if you. Sorry to put you on the spot here, but you are the Latin guy. You're the Latin lover.
Oh, this one though.
Yeah, you don't have it. Oh, look at that.
It's not
So
fully in there.
okay,
yet.
so let's talk about lake whitefish, and we'll come back and we'll name
edit
the
that
episode
part
after
out.
the Latin name.
Yeah.
Okay, so this fish, a salmonid, and it seems like largely, at least in our region, and I don't know the whole range of this fish, but I believe it's distributed across the northern latitudes of this continent, is it not? And there are other species, but I think in the same genus that get quite large, if I understand it, over in Alaska. So this fish, though, in our region is largely untargeted at this point. People go after togue or the lake trout.
the trophy-sized
Yep.
fish.
They go after the landlocked salmon here.
or I should say, the potential to have that trophy-sized
Potential for
fish.
that. They go after the brook trout. They go after the non-native trout like rainbow trout and brown trout, which are stocked here in Maine, and there are some self-sustaining populations, as I understand it. But there's this indigenous salmonid that the world forgot here, at least in our region. And at this point, I think you've done quite a bit of research into, or at least have been looking at the backstory. Can you sort of summarize or sum up what the status of this fish is today and maybe a little bit about what the backstory is?
Yeah, and again, because I'm not a fisheries biologist, I don't want people to think that I somehow have this whole story out, but I've been reading a lot on this, and there's some from some of the same documents that you've seen, and our state here has produced reports on this particular species. And I guess the sad part for me is that we know that this fish has been lost from more than half of the waters. And when I say lost, I mean is literally either gone or is at these relic populations with very few fish. And while it's not known conclusively and what has occurred in all water bodies, we do know, or at least we should say it is believed, that the stocking of other fish in many of the water bodies has resulted in a loss of this native fish. So, for example, Sebago Lake, which is in the southwestern part of the state,
Is that our biggest lake in the state?
the second largest.
Moose.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Moosehead.
Yeah, so where the largest whitefish in the state was ever caught, whitefish have not been seen there for many years. And there has been such a massive introduction of lake trout and splake, the hybrid of lake trout and brook trout there, that it is...
There are, as I understand it, there are natural hybrids, splake, but largely these have been stocked.
Yeah. And that has caused this intense predation on the small whitefish, so that for a long while, the only whitefish that were ever caught in Sebago Lake were large whitefish, indicating there's no recruitment.
None are being born. These are older fish, and they're the last dying out.
That's right. And
holdouts.
because whitefish are a long-lived fish, you get these holdouts for many years, and then eventually they disappear.
Can you just quickly, a long-lived fish, and you were talking about this today, Bill. When we say long-lived fish, give some perspective on that.
Well, I mean, more than 10 years in some cases with the whitefish.
And you were
right?
suggesting
Going out a long way.
some of the larger ones
Yeah,
might be as old as
those fish that we hooked today that were 18 to 20 inches, 21 inches, those fish are age of their age. There's no question in my
Yeah,
mind.
I mean, these are old
They
fish.
are. They
It's just
are
that's
very,
humbling,
very
like
slow
the age
growing
of what we
fish.
ate tonight.
Absolutely.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
But in other lakes, and while this is not a perfect correlation in the state, it's been looked at pretty closely. In many cases, it was the introduction of smelts, which, while it is native to Maine, it was not necessarily ubiquitous in all waters.
That's an important part of this story,
That's right.
is that a
Yeah.
lot of these fish are native to Maine, but just not into each
They're
water.
not necessarily
each
in
water
every
body.
lake
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And the introduction of smelt caused competition at the larval stages of whitefish life, and they were lost in many, but not all, of the lakes that smelts were introduced to. And it's the same. We could also talk about the story as a tangent. We know that landlocked salmon, they're native to Maine. In fact, the type specimen, the one that is held as the benchmark of the species, comes from Sebago Lake, but it was only in 4 water systems, and it's been introduced to all of the others.
This is Salmo, Salar, and then the
Sebago.
Sebago. Okay.
Right, the landlocked salmon, the one that doesn't run to the ocean. So again, native to Maine, but it was not found in nearly as many water bodies as it is today because it was moved to those. So one of the massive impacts to the lake whitefish was the introduction of other species. It includes smelts, it includes lake trout, and it includes some warm water fish, that classic perch, bass.
None of which are in this water.
No.
bag.
Negative. We
But
do not
My,
have those.
my goodness,
in
I would be so
southern-
paranoid that
southwestern
somebody would
Maine,
try to bring a bucket of them
that
here.
is- been the case.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's our biggest fear here.
But the
Some
most
pike, some perch.
Oh man! But the most
So
terrible
pickerel.
part of the story, of course, is that if an individual was to introduce fish to a lake, they would be heavily fined and potentially imprisoned for this
Right.
action. Now, of course, inland fishers and wildlife, we're not saying that they did this intentionally to
They
target
just
the
didn't
whitefish.
try the whitefish.
But
It's as simple as that.
our fishery biologists
They did do this.
introduced fish to water bodies where they did not necessarily occur and caused massive impacts. And those same impacts, the individual would have wound up in jail, and the state said,
I mean, in fairness, they did not know what they were doing.
But
They were
we-
Mickey Mouse and Fantasia.
Right.
They
Right.
did not
Right.
know.
but
We said,
we do know.
Yeah.
We know that we don't want people to introduce fish because we have laws against it.
yeah,
Correct.
Yeah, we do.
But,
yeah, you're
and
right.
I'm
you're right.
not trying to say that
Yeah.
anybody thought they were going to harm the whitefish. I understand what you're saying.
Is there an effort to?
Oh, I think so.
There are reclamation
Absolutely.
efforts,
Absolutely.
various types,
Absolutely.
and this is so political. It's so expensive, and
know.
you have fisheries that are yielding a lot of money. That there's like Sebago, for instance. They're not going to get the togue out of Sebago.
No, because the
No.
anglers...
It's a
Right.
huge togue fishing water.
But-
Water now. It's important to the economy
You look
here.
where we are right now. You look where we at. 1952, 1953. This thing was totally natural until that point. And the state said, you know what, we need to do something here. And I don't know what they did in 52 or 53 on the survey, but they looked at the lake and they said, you know what, we need to help it. So what do? They introduced rainbow smelt.
With the thinking that it was a forage fish for the fish that are here.
Correct.
Correct.
And I'm sure at 52 or 53, they didn't realize what the impact was going to be.
They did not, clearly.
Let's put a
couldn't have. They
voracious
could not
predator
have.
in here because it's small, so it's not
Correct.
going to be a problem.
Right. Exactly. But you look where it's at today. We've gone 60-odd years since that introduction. And the survey was done here 4 or 5 years ago, and this, by far, in the state of Maine, is the best.
Oh, this is number one.
It is number one.
How many water bodies have whitefish in the state
I
right
know
now?
I can't answer that question except to give an approximation.
Right.
Maybe, and Bill, correct me, maybe there's 20 that have a decent population.
reproductive population.
Yeah,
We're not far off, I don't think.
No, you're not too far off.
But it used to be 2 and 3 times that.
But what's so
Correct.
interesting, though, is that the correlation is smelt and the decline of whitefish.
there
Yet
is
here,
there is a happy medium there.
somehow, because the amount of bait we marked
Oh, you
on your
saw.
fish finder
You saw
today
it.
was mind-boggling to me.
there is some feature in some lakes that has been, as I do not know what it is that somehow buffers the presence
What
of
is that?
smelts
We don't know what it is.
and whitefish being able to co-occur.
Lack of people.
Well, you're not probably too far off. It's like with everything. We talked about the moose bear population and everything in the North Maine Woods today. I don't think you're too far off. I really don't.
Daniel, my only comment, and it's a comment I always give, is we understand that fishing and all the anglers bring into the state is really important to the economy, and we can't overlook that.
Right.
But we never, ever bring the biology to even be sub-equal.
Yeah. Well, it's coming. It's
Until they
coming around.
collapse.
It's coming around. I mean, I think we sat the other day. Grant and I had the opportunity to sit with the state migratory bird and upland game bird biologist, and I asked him, "Your science right now, where is it at? You know, how mature is it?" He's like, "Oh, we're in our infancy. We don't even really know what we're doing yet. You know, like we're just getting going." And I feel like fisheries was meddling for a long time. And now they're starting to realize we need to actually go the opposite direction. The problem is it's such a mess right now. Like, what do you do? I mean, I feel bad
Like
in a
with
way.
the pike and the muskie and these predators.
Well, yeah, we can have that whole different discussion on
Right.
the muskie fishery. And the muskie fishery
Which is another non-native to Maine, correct?
Exactly. I mean,
But is it now in the
it
is it
showed
in the
up-
St. John waterway?
It's been here since the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. My feelings on that, the state, once they figured out that they were here and they weren't going to go away, the state really should have done something about it and put some regs on it. We lost a lot of really good fish in Baker Lake, huge fish, in the 20s. Those are big fish. No
What
regs.
species are you talking about?
Huh?
What species do you mean?
Muskies.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
muskies.
once they were here
Yeah.
and we knew they were impacting native trout populations, instead of making everybody just kill them thinking that the anglers by hook and
It wasn't
line are
gonna
going to
happen.
wipe them
It
out.
wasn't gonna
You
happen.
can't do it via that method. So you might as well have turned it into a fishery is
Absolutely.
the idea.
It's
Regs-
challenging because
Put some regs on it.
but how about this? Like, here's one of the things that I've been hearing people talking about in the southern and southwestern United States, where they have a hog problem, and the idea is let's create a hog hunt. And then what ends up happening is because the hog hunt becomes, it ends up being guided. You end up with these helicopter hunts and all these kind of things. What ends up happening is people start bringing hogs in because there's a lot of money moving. So what happens when you create regs around it? Then you got all these guides guiding
So
it.
many
Then the
parts
guides
to
and
the
everybody.
story.
Yeah, it gets complicated because now you
Mother
have
Earth is
people.
like, oh, I got it, you guys.
Once people become
balance it back
invested
out.
in
I
it,
got it.
like if you, because like for instance, let me just put it to you this way, and I'll let you guys throw this around. One idea is you create regs around it. Another idea is you make it illegal to fish them everywhere, which seems like, wait a second, how will that work? Now no one's taking them out, except that if you make it so no one can fish them, will that discourage anyone else from putting them in places?
Right. No.
Because once you
No,
put
I
regs around
understand.
it, then you get people who are like, well, I'm going to kind of bring a bucket of them over here because I like fishing for these. So that's like a really complicated issue, I feel like. It's not simple.
It is not black and white for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
It's I really wish 25, 30 years ago things had changed with them when they really figured out that they were here to stay and we weren't going to get rid of them. And once they get into that watershed, once they got in the St. John watershed, they were here. Like I said, there were fish that were you could go to Baker, in the mid to late 80s, early 90s, troll for 5 days and catch 20, 25 pounders. Pretty much.
Toad, you're talking about.
No,
these
pike.
these
Sorry,
muskies. These
I'm confused. All right.
Yeah, muskies.
Before, why can't you do that now?
They've cleaned them out. They've actually depleted. There's still
okay.
There's still muskie
Oh,
in the
okay.
watershed. There's no-
Anglers have depleted them.
They have.
What they're
know.
doing is saying, I'm going to do my part. I'm going to kill them all.
Correct.
But the
Okay.
trout are gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know
at
what
this
I
point.
mean?
Oh, so you're saying at
Too
this
late.
point, this is a musky fishery.
It is a muskie.
Let's
yes,
regulate it
The-
as a
the
musky
brook trout
fishery.
fishery and the St. John River.
Okay, I'm
system
sorry, I
is pretty
misunderstood
much
that
gone.
before.
And
Okay.
the problem with that is it runs all the way to Fort Kent. I mean, every watershed that
Right,
branches
okay.
off St. John, it's got muskies in it. So yeah, it's turned into a great fishery for us. I mean, we do a lot of trips on it. But we've seen the decline in size. You know, we'd take a 2-day trip and we'd always boat some fish in the teens. Now, if we're lucky if we break double digits. But
Bill, you've asserted here tonight that muskie
yeah,
taste not the same, but on a
it-
rating wise,
it's a very
like
good eating
whitefish.
No question.
And so we now have to determine if this is true.
it is.
Let's
true.
get taxonomic real quick for people listening too. We're talking about salmonids today,
Yeah.
a little bit here, right? So we're talking about the so-called trout,
Mm-hmm.
the char,
Mm-hmm.
the salmon,
Mm-hmm.
the grayling, and the whitefish. Those are salmonids.
Right.
But if we talk about salmonoids, correct me if I'm wrong, now we're including actually pike, pickerel, and muskies, which I believe are salmonoids.
Yeah, depending on how you're using that word, they do belong to a different family of fish.
But is that an order then? What's after family?
Yes, it would
Because
be.
I believe that salmonoid refers to the family and salmonid refers.
Right.
Okay, so I just think that's interesting and I want to bring it up. Back to it, I just wanted to say for people listening who aren't familiar with muskies, they are closely related to pike and pickerel. So pickerels are your
Pickerel,
small ones.
right.
Then you get the pikes, the next stage up, and then you get into these massive fish. I mean, how big will a muskie get? What's the biggest you've seen or heard
They
of?
can get really big. I mean,
Bill, do you have a size that you've heard people catch?
I've heard
Upper
fish
size?
25, 26 pounds.
Oh my God.
Really?
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
big.
my best personal guiding somebody is 16 pounds.
But still,
Which is about,
16
equate
pounds.
that to inches in length?
37, 38 inches.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
For a
Huge
yardstick. Huh?
fish.
A
You
big
know,
predatory
and
fish, too.
I will tell you, when it hooks up on the end of a rod, it's 110% horsepower.
Yeah, yeah.
They are very aggressive. It's
Wow,
a
they
great
must
fishery.
strike
Don't
us
get me
at
wrong.
first, yeah.
It is an awesome fishery. I just wish that, like I said, 25 years ago, the
Yeah.
state would have.
I wish people could see these
some
fish
regs.
that we're talking about right now, the pike, the smaller, the pickerel, the larger, the muskie. It has this face that like flattens out,
Yep,
and almost
correct.
to like a duck bill.
Yeah, like a
Correct.
spoonbill.
yeah,
Yeah,
and when the mouth opens up,
Oh, it's huge.
and but it's just row
lined
upon
with
row
teeth,
of
needles.
teeth,
Yep.
and they're all pointed backwards. So
Correct.
once it
No
grabs
escape.
on, it's like an alligator with fins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
But, I will tell you, people say, I've guided a lot of people that say, I've been pike fishing. They're just like pike. Let me tell you right now, they're not just like pike. They are totally opposite of pike.
In what way, Bill?
the
pike.
taste, hopefully.
No. No. It's their feeding practices, their aggression practices. A pike pretty much will eat anything that swings by him.
I mean, we even fished for him with dead fish.
Some
on
guy
the
told us
bottom.
hot dogs for
Yeah,
bite.
Probably. Yeah. Well, there you go.
Right. But
Now,
the
I have-
muskie's different.
The muskie is total. The muskie is very, very finicky.
What's if you were going to give me, this is awkward to put somebody in this position, but if
Nope.
you were going to go scale of 1 to 10, my personal, and you weren't going to be idealistic, you're just going to be honest and real, your respect level for pike and your respect level for muskie.
Oh,
Scale
here
of
we
1
go.
to 10.
muskies?
Yeah, no, but give me a scale of 1
Give
to
me
10.
a
How do you
number.
feel
Yeah.
about pike? And because I get the impression you're like, yeah, pike, whatever. I don't really respect him that
I
much.
give a pike about a 5, and I give a muskie a 10.
Yeah,
There's
that's
no
what I was
question.
feeling from you.
It's a fish of 1,000 casts.
Yeah.
And I've taken so many people that read magazines and said, you know what, I've read this. It's a fish. Let me tell you what, it is a fish of 1,000 casts. After you said that, you cast that line in the third cast and you've caught one. It's like, well, this is really easy. Well, yeah, but you know what? It just so happened that fish was ready to eat what you put in
and
front
in
of him.
1,000 more casts, you'll get another one.
There you go. You better start counting now because exactly, you're at ground zero. No, it's crazy. Our best day, Dawn and I, we'd fish, 10 years ago, and we'd boat probably 12, 14 fish, 2 boats in the river, and now it's we got to hike. We have to work for them.
Is the origin of these, because I see these ads for muskie tournaments, are those tournaments, are they kind of like when they have these tournaments for coyotes? Were they originally to help
No,
call
I
the
don't
population?
think so. I think it was more.
They were just
I
trophy
think they were
fishing.
sport fishing.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
These originated from Canada.
They did.
An
They-
impoundment that.
They came out of the Lake Lac frontier.
Right.
They came on a high water spring when the dam let go.
Right.
Back
And that
in the,
emptied into
in the
this
mid
watershed.
80s. What happened was the lake is right on the Quebec border.
Right.
some of that water dumps into the St. John watershed. So when that spilled over, a lot of the fry or whatever got into that watershed. It filtered down in. These fish grew. Boom, boom, boom. And here we go.
And the St. John is, I mean, it's one of Maine's major rivers.
Absolutely.
And it gets, in places, I was talking to you, like I've been on stretches and it gets bony. You know, it's shallow and stones. But there are deep water pools all the way through where these...
I've got dead water I troll on 6 miles, 4 miles, 6 miles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, it's interesting. When I laugh about this a lot with friends. When you watch nature documentaries, you'll have this phenomenon where you can watch something about a species, like a dolphin would be a great example, the mammal, where you could watch a documentary about dolphins where they are the good guy and they're so sweet and they're so nice and they're so innocent.
Oh yeah, but
and everything, and then you see the predators who'd come after them and you think, oh, they're so bad. Oh, blah, blah. Then you could watch a documentary about some other animal that's preyed upon by dolphin, and now dolphin's the bad guy, and you see how awful they are and all the terrible things they do. It's all perspective, you know?
Totally.
And right now we're talking about invasive fish, and they tend to play the bad guy role. But when you think about biologically the will to survive and the basic biological mandate to thrive in your ecosystem or wherever you end up and to overcome circumstances.
Well, this is true of plants or animals.
And of course, everything.
They, in almost all cases, didn't bring themselves to
No,
this.
and you got to have a lot of respect when you can get into a novel ecosystem and you carve out a niche and you fight your way to survive, and then you become a dominant predator in that ecosystem. It's amazing.
If anybody wants to vilify, if that's something you have to do, vilify the organism that brought these plants and animals here. I don't think that that's necessarily useful either, but I'm just saying, you know, whether it's purple loosestrife or the muskie, these organisms didn't have this plan to take over the planet. Humans in their global...
It was a mad ape.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, I want to circle back to this body of water because how we got here was the idea that though this lake had 1 or 2 smelt introductions that magically somehow, mystically somehow, or just through, you know, good luck and good fortune, or actually through some undiagnosed scientific reason, that they have not damaged the fishery considerably. No. This is a very intact fishery, and there is this fish here, this whitefish, this lake whitefish that we're here for.
Can we also know there's no industry forever? There's 8, as I understand, places where there are camps, and yes, this one has multiple structures, but that's it. So the lake is, you know, a mile across, approximately 3 or 4 miles long. It's kind of shaped like a sock. And there's 8 sites where there's structures on it. I mean,
and they're not year round, are they?
No, they're not.
Yeah. And so we're talking about...
And it's leased land, so it limits what people can do.
Correct.
That's right. And so...
And what kind of foothold they can get to, right? Because they have to renew leases.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to describe this as untouched wilderness, but man, it's pretty close to it.
It's pretty close.
This is a
especially
lake
for the east, right? We're not out west in the deep where there's heavy wilderness.
As good as it gets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you look at where you're at and how long it takes to get here.
Yeah.
Driving your vehicle.
We're 6.5 hours.
That's
though.
right. But even
we live in Maine.
Right. Even if you came from town,
we're 7.5 hours.
You came from town in a pickup truck. It's going to take you 2.5, 3 hours to get here. Now you put a boat in tow. Mm-hmm. Not everybody wants to drag a boat out here. Believe me.
Yeah,
I've seen boats. I had now get this. I had a boat about 7 years ago show up. There was 4, 5, 6 guys that showed up here on a Friday afternoon. They were all happy to be here, which understandable. Guy pulled to the upper parking lot, and I went out and I said, "How's it going, guys?" "Oh, not too bad." So nice boat. So I walked up to it and I looked inside and I said, "What the hell is all that on the bottom of the boat?" "I don't know." I'm looking at it and I said, "Those are all the tops of your rivets."
Oh no!
Just
bumping on that road.
If there was
vibrated them right out.
Tops of the rivets.
Oh no!
On the bottom of the boat,
they just vibrated on the boat.
All the tops popped off on his trip in. Wow. It's like, dude, you can't put that boat in the water.
You got 50 holes, bro.
So we rented him a boat for the weekend. It's like he took his boat home. I don't know what he did with it. Probably had it welded, I'm guessing. I don't know.
I remember Don talking about this being like, we tried to make the boat rentals cheap enough so that people will leave their boats at
Yeah,
home.
because I said to you when we talked about coming up here, I was like, I'll bring my Lund up. It's like, yeah.
And I was like, Don said,
don't do it. It's going to look like somebody shot bird shot into the bottom of your boat.
Absolutely. There you go. There you go. So, yeah, it's the pressure on the lake during the open water season is very, very minimal.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that the ice fishing
You think it picks up during the ice fishing
season?
season?
It does pick up. It's not that it's easy accessible for people.
But this is a snowmobiling destination, too.
It
Is that how they're getting here, though? Because obviously this road...
If you don't have a snow sled,
you're not
pretty
driving
hard to get
these
here.
roads, right?
Sarah and I may be the only people that come here without a snow machine.
I was going to say, you made it in here in a Subaru Forester?
Right,
Don picked us up.
but we're
Yeah,
also
the roads are good.
but we're also willing to walk.
I was
right?
gonna say,
And so
you came in here on snowshoes,
it's
pulling a
over there
sled.
that you want to go. It's over a mile away, and we're like, we'll just pull our
We'll
stuff.
just walk, yeah. I haven't walked today. This is going to be great. One of the things that's really interesting about this fish to me is, I haven't ever fished grayling, but when I look at salmon, when I look at trout, and when I look at char, these are fish who you could skin and just eat those skins. The scales are so small that
Right.
you on a brook trout, you'd almost think it didn't have scales. It'd almost be like an amphibian skin or something. They get a little more noticeable but I mean, I eat the skins off our Atlantic salmon, no issue at all. This fish has macro scales. Like you look at them, it looks like somebody
It's
has
like your pinky fingernail.
Yeah.
and like somebody has etched crisscross all through it, like
with
sort
the
of
black highlighting the
diamond-shaped scales.
So,
and when they come out, they're big.
To me,
It's
you know
like
what that
rainbow
tells me?
fish.
That fish is like from the dinosaur age.
It looks like it. doesn't
It
it?
really
real.
does. That's got some armor plating.
Yeah.
I need to survive this.
Yeah, and you're right, sir. When you pull one out, I was just thinking, no, they look like little diamonds. But you're right. When they come out, is when they look like your pinky fingernail, about the same size.
Yeah, they're huge.
They are huge, and
But there's more weirdness about this fish because it doesn't have teeth.
and a tiny little mouth.
A tiny little
Oh,
mouth.
that is so funny.
I know, and it's adapted. Like you read some of the reports, these fish will eat crustaceans and other things from the bottom of the
Oh, they
water,
do, yeah.
and they are capable of digesting them.
No kidding.
Now they'll also eat small fish and,
Right.
and even flies and things that are
Oh,
hatching on the
absolutely.
water.
Absolutely.
But they are adapted to eating things that some of the other salmon family
won't touch.
won't. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, that's
and
really
there's
interesting.
so many differences. It's like they're out on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really seem to be kind of doing their own thing. What have you learned about them? How would you describe their general behavior based on what you've experienced here as a guide of how many years on this lake? You said was it 2006? You said
13 years.
Yeah. Okay.
13 years.
Hey, we'll get right back to the show, but I wanted to take a moment to tell you how you can see Season 1 of WildFed. If you head over to wild-fed.com right now, you'll see that pre-orders for Season 1 are available alongside the Season 1 experience. Both will begin on January 6th of 2020. If you choose the show on its own, you'll get access to a new episode every week for 8 weeks. Remember, these are 30-minute episodes, not the 22 minutes of a typical TV show. If you choose the program, it'll include Season 1, but each week, along with a new episode, you'll receive a director's cut, where our producer Grant Giuliano and I break down the episode, discussing the background, the gear we use, the places and people and stories involved, as well as some of the comedy that took place on the side, some of the drama, some of the intrigue that we couldn't squeeze into the 30-minute format. You'll also get exclusive access to a weekly live Q&A, where we'll be answering your questions and discussing how you can get started hunting, fishing, and foraging for food. Additionally, this will all take place inside of a private member group where you'll have access to me and the WildFed team for a full 9 weeks, as well as a community of like-minded folks. If you just want to see the show on its own, it's $49. If you want to join me in the 9-week program, that's just $249. Go over to wild-fed.com to get the show or sign up for the program. Now, here's the rest of the podcast.
So in that time, you've got a good sense of.
I do. It's as far as I'm concerned, it's an awesome fishery. It's the next best thing when you come to the North Maine Woods and you can't fish for a lake landlocked salmon, it's the next best thing.
Sarah, you okay with what he's saying right now? I know. I feel you struggling over there. The struggle is real.
Obviously,
they
the top
fight
choice.
as good as a landlocked.
You can tell as soon as you hook them on an ice trap.
Yeah.
They fight
bounce.
different.
They bounce.
And it's like, oh, I've got a whitefish.
Yeah.
Every time.
You saw a couple today. The couple today broke water
Yeah.
like a salmon.
I would
do.
feel the fight right when they started to get into the top of the water column. It was like I wouldn't feel much. They get into the top of the water column, and all of a sudden I'd feel them yanking back
it's
on it.
It's good right now where you guys are still, where that water is still cold. You take that same fish 4 weeks from now.
Oh, yeah.
And we start bringing them out of that into a different water column.
Oh, they don't like that.
They don't like it.
Yeah.
Of course, right.
They're a lot more sensitive. We have a really, really hard job with some of those, 18 to 20 inch fish, trying to get them back.
I will say,
they'll swim off.
As we were talking about today, though, you guys are so practiced and fast because we have the size limit here is 18 inches. The fish has to be 18 inches long. And we do catch 16, 17-inch fish.
Yeah.
And getting the hook out of the mouth.
Because we're fishing treble hooks on Rapalas and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's 3
Oh, they're going everywhere.
fast without damaging the mouth parts. I mean, in a macroscopic sense, is obviously a puncture. But out and the fish back in, and you watch it swim away. And it's like, it's really cool to actually see guides who understand that if they don't care for the fish in the lake, they will be out of job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and like you said earlier, the mouth is so delicate. You got to be careful.
Even when I put them on the stringers, I was kind of worried. Even at trolling speed, I was like, "Is that mouth going to hold up?"
And that's the other thing. We go from this time of year, then we go into the wintertime. And that's the worst thing that happens in the wintertime is these guys get 17 and a half inch whitefish, and they got to measure them. And
they lay them right on that ice.
0 out.
Yeah.
And it's
Gills are freezing.
so fast.
30 seconds. And stuff is freezing. Their eyes freeze.
Oh, man.
Fish feed on smell. But if you can't see, it's got to make it even worse. I mean, come on.
It took us, on our second day, with the exception of when it got to about 17 inches, we could tell.
Oh, absolutely.
We only had to measure a very rare fish if you were paying attention.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cool because we were like, nope. Oh, that one's in.
You could tell. They get a little more girth to them, and when they come off the head, it's instead of coming back, it comes up.
Oh, they get that hump.
It starts
and
to
it
come
looks
up.
weird because the head is so small.
It stays the same size.
You have this little head, and then this.
When that
we had
starts
that
to
one
come
with that humpback
off the back, it's like
Quasimodo.
we got 18 plus. I know we got 18 plus.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Something you told me today I found really interesting, and I don't know if you heard this yet, Arthur and Sarah, but I was asking who's coming here and what they're coming here to target. And I was saying, are people coming here for the heritage brook trout fishery? Are they coming here for the whitefish? Are they coming here for the togue? And Bill, you were saying that the people from south of here are coming here for trophy lake trout or seeking that.
Yeah.
People north of here are coming down looking for whitefish to eat at a subsistence level. So talk about that a little bit. I'm just curious what kind of characters you're meeting and what the different cultures seem and feel like to you.
Well, I'm not picking on anybody in general, but
please.
The people up north, they are French descent, and it's been passed on.
You like
generation through generation through generation.
Right?
It is what they love the whitefish, and understandably why. I mean, they're a good eating fish. Not to say that everybody comes from south.
But your tone sounds like if there weren't rules here, they would take every single one of them out of the pond.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I say, it's been quite a few years now, but it used to be a 3 fish limit. We got it bumped back to a 1 fish 18.
When you say we,
well, Donald was a big foothold on getting this thing to 1 fish.
But you guys here guiding here,
we
actually advocated
That's
for.
Right.
So that I think is really cool. That it was not the state biologists coming in here saying we need to change this. It was you guys on the ground or on the water saying we need to change these limits.
We're basically the biologists on the lake all year.
Right.
It sounds like it took a long time though to get it changed.
It did take quite a while.
I mean, he told us like 5 years of kind of harping and harping.
He hopped hard, and which is understandable. I mean, not just because he has what he has here, but he's sensitive to fish.
Mm-hmm.
He loves to catch fish, and if they're not there to catch, what's the sense to fish?
Yeah, like we were talking about, I'd rather catch them less frequently,
Right.
but still catch them,
Exactly.
than catch a whole bunch now and 10 years from now
Have none.
there's nothing.
Absolutely.
Or worse, our children.
So I mean, it stunted the ice fishing pressure for a few years. And
Are those northerners coming down primarily on the hard water?
yeah, oh, absolutely.
And is that true of people from the south as well,
Yes.
coming up for lake trout?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. This gets very, very little pressure open water.
Yep.
Yeah, it does. And like I say, the people coming from south, everybody comes to Northern Maine to catch a big brook trout. Well, if that's what keeps coming up here, that's awesome. Sooner or later, you're going to get a good brook trout. But the lakers in the wintertime is what a lot of people come for. They are very prevalent to catch. And like I told you earlier, these things are chasing smelts up underneath the ice, 3 feet to 15 feet under.
Which for people listening is really different than how most of the state is fishing for lake trout, right? Most of the time we're fishing at the bottom of the water column, and here they're up under the ice. You said even sometimes their heads are scratched up
They
from
are.
how
We
close
had
to
one
the
like
surface
that.
are.
All kinds of lines
Really?
on top of its head from hitting me.
Oh, it's fascinating.
And the thing is, the oxygen level in this lake, let's say the lake's 84, 5 feet deep. The oxygen level at 85 deep is not good. If it was, the smelts would be living there. The smelts don't live there. The smelts live 40 to 30. That's where they live all year long. And
You're marking them, those bait balls, all the time.
Yeah.
Balls.
Yeah, they're bait balls. And, those
I mean, we were seeing them like cannonballs on this thing today.
So those big lakers come in there. They come in there at 30 feet. And those maybe the bait's up at 20 or 15. They're just cruising, whatever, cold water. And those bait just go, and those big lakers chase them.
Real lake.
That's the way it happens. That's the way it is all winter long. It's crazy.
And we were laughing. One of the things that Grant and I noticed throughout the winter was, and I fished with you, Sarah, and you, Arthur, on Sebago this year for lake trout, and found at that time that people were really averse to eating them down where we are. And the name is mud hens. Mud hens. And,
mud chickens.
And I found, mud chicken is the other one.
We've not found that.
We found them to be delicious. Now, somebody pointed out to me recently, somebody said something about that's different species of algae. I have no idea if this is true. This is anecdotal. But somebody said different species of algae can cause different flavors in fish.
I agree with that.
And they were saying that it's not the species that tastes muddy, but based on the algae in the water. I don't know if that's true or not, but that got me thinking, maybe
But Sarah and I have had lake trout now from multiple waters.
Yeah, and they're delicious, right?
And they're all good.
Yeah, okay.
You'll talk about Moosehead Lake as being maybe not the best.
Okay, but
We're
now,
talking about whitefish, you guys.
yeah, we're gonna get back to them. All right, but God, it's all you think about, Sarah. But
Have we
Whitefish
even
and
mentioned
moose.
the whitefish people?
okay, wait a second. But Bill told me today. He said, the lake trout here are higher in the water column.
Yeah.
So
We
they're
ate them here.
even
They were
less
great.
Aren't they
less of
awesome?
that
They were
flavor.
amazing.
My dad said the best lake trout he ever had in the whole state of Maine.
No, these were amazing.
Absolutely.
We are kind of talking about everything but whitefish, right? We keep, I think, because they occupy negative space, and we're talking around them, and that's helping to paint the picture. I think is what's going on here. But I would like to say, okay, so the whitefish. You were talking about behavior of them and catching them. For people interested in whitefish listening, give us your sort of general. Give me a quick briefing on whitefish fishing, at least here.
It's something that if you're going to do it, you need to have a regiment towards it, and you need to stick with it. It's a fish that's in anywhere between 25 feet to 40 feet of water, generally at 30 feet, and they
In
are
schools.
They are a school fish. They're not everywhere, but when you just can't go fish for an hour or two, and if they don't bite, doesn't mean they're not there. They're there. You just got to stay with them.
It's dialed in.
It
for
is
this
dialed
water
in.
body.
It is.
The guides here were able to give so much specific
Oh, yeah.
information that would have
Pinpoints.
taken us a couple of years.
Oh, that's
to
what I
figure
noticed
out.
too, right
Exactly.
away. And
It
I
is
thought
pinpoint.
something that really stands out to me, Bill, was coming up here. We left at about 5 a.m, and it's a solid 7-hour drive, and we had some stops. And I thought, oh, no big deal. We'll get here for the evening bite, because everything I've ever fished, it's
too.
it's a morning bite, it's an evening bite. I'm thinking midday, nothing's going to be happening. You guys are going to be on siesta. We get here,
so
and Don
out.
says, "Oh no, you missed it.
Yeah.
It's midday here." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?"
You don't even have to wake up early. This is the best fish.
Yeah, exactly.
in the
You're in
world.
heaven, aren't you?
It's a tannic water body, and
They need that bright light.
It needs a bright.
So you
light.
think if we were in Clearwater here, they might have a more typical morning evening?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
no
it's
question.
the dark
no
water.
Question. It is the dark water. There's no question.
It's different in so many ways because, like you were talking about, fishing for
Sarah's just
lake
putting
trout.
tannin into
Yeah.
water everywhere.
at 3 feet below the ice, you just don't do that anywhere.
Right. When you show up with a tackle box full of stuff that works downstate up here, it doesn't work because of the water quality. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so tannic. And they say, from years, there was a roll dam on Ross Stream years ago. This was full of pulpwood, 4-foot pulpwood.
Wow.
This thing sat, and all the bark
to the
just
bottom.
came off, and it all just dropped to the bottom.
Right.
And it's like percolating coffee.
But even
Yeah.
that though, many of the streams here are draining massive peatlands.
Yes.
And so it is
Oh, okay.
natural too.
Right.
Because the bottom looks nice from what I could tell from your fish finder.
It is, but it's just it's
Yeah.
years and
Years
years
of
and
it,
years
accumulation.
Yeah.
I cut 3. I think I want to say I've cut 3 whitefish since we've been here. It's a 1 fish per. I should probably preface by saying it's a 1 fish per person per day here. 1 whitefish, 18 inches.
Correct.
And I've cut 3 of them now. And each one I cut a little bit differently. I think I'm starting to get a system down of how I like to cut them. But Arthur, I would like you to describe you've cut more of them than me. And then Sarah, I'd love for you to describe how you're cooking them because I cooked some last night. They weren't awful to eat, but
no, they were
but
awesome.
They were great.
They were okay. No, they were okay. Grant and I today, it was a very clear victor. He was like, I want to say it was all right, but Sarah's got the technique. So we'll get into that cooking them in a second. But what were you noticing about cutting them?
Well, that part of the interesting thing is with so many trout type species, like we're not even filleting them, right?
Yeah.
We're just cooking them whole.
Usually, I would gut a trout. I'd rip that bloodline off of the sort of underneath the spine.
Right, and after
Just cook it
cook
whole.
the whole backbone and almost all of the rib bone just separate
And
out.
I would leave the skin on.
and I would leave the skin on.
Right.
Right. So with the whitefish, you're doing a fillet, which was just strange to me coming from Western Maine, where you're eating all these fish and the skin and everything, and we're cutting just lateral of the backbone down along until you get 2/3 the way down the fish. Then you can push the knife all the way through and cut off the last bit. You fillet off this piece. You do cut through a line of small pin
click,
bones,
click, click,
and you
click,
can
click,
hear
click.
it. Yeah, your blade clicks on them, and then as you get toward the belly, you cut the fillet off. And I leave the skin on for this step. You don't have to. You could switch this step up. But that little row of pin bones, I'll actually make a slice on one side of them and as close to it as I can, a slice on the other side so I can lift out this thin line of flesh that contains all of those. So you've got this big fillet with a little thin slice.
V-notch taken
Yeah.
out to take all those pin bones out.
And then you just slide the knife in and remove that flesh that's now sans bones from the skin, because the skin you just can't eat in this species, or at least the scales are just massive. And then we've cooked it. Sarah and I have eaten it in a few ways, but now we've just settled on what she'll describe.
And so, in other words, a typical way you'd fillet a fish, but there's a row of pin bones that need to come out, and you could obviously pull those out one by one with tweezers or pliers or your fingers. But just slicing them out, you lose a little bit of meat. But
you can only do
makes a lot
that
of
when
sense.
it's fresh. Once you
Yeah,
freeze them, it's
it goes
done.
to slop.
Right.
All right, so then we hand it off to Sarah, and then describe what you're doing.
Well, we used freshly ground spelt and freshly ground corn into a flour, and then I threw in some paprika and some cayenne, some salt. And the other night we used a little bit of baking powder, which I didn't use tonight. I don't know if there was a big difference there.
I was happy both times.
But that's it. Can't really give you the measurements, just kind of estimated.
And what did you do to keep the flour on?
Oh yeah, we dipped the whitefish in egg first.
You're taking those fillets and cutting them up into
Chicken nuggets.
Yeah, little nuggets. Yeah, chicken nuggets.
I'm really just trying to replicate my childhood here. Just make it a little bit healthier.
I would like a little plastic toy and the big art.
But the cooking though.
Lay it on us.
Too.
The cooking.
Yeah, then we're just using a cast iron, heating up some bear fat or some pig fat and frying them.
Basic deep fry. I mean, pretty simple stuff. And then I think part of where I went wrong was, are you not putting them out onto like a paper towel? You're going straight onto the plate. And I made that fatal error of putting them onto the paper towel, and they got mine last night. They were kind of.
They get dry?
No, they were like the opposite, kind of.
I don't put anything on a paper towel.
They didn't get crispy.
I know,
it,
that's what I'm
soaks
saying.
up the fat.
Yeah,
they
you
get,
just put them straight on the plate, and yours were like, you have a nice crust
crisp.
on them. Yeah. Anyway, super simple though. I mean, a light fry in a good quality oil, and they are like, that's what's so weird. So that's what I want to describe here is you bite into it and you don't get a fish flavor. You get this white texture, like chicken, not like chicken breast, not like chicken dark meat, like processed chicken. That's what's weird about it. Of processed
so
nugget chicken, where you're like, oh, it doesn't have the fiber that you have those fibers of a chicken breast or a grouse breast or a turkey breast.
It makes me feel validated for all those chicken nuggets I ate. I'm like,
there
it was like my biological norm.
There was a reason. Yeah, exactly. You're one of the people of the whitefish.
If they were alive, I would go try and join them. Absolutely.
Describe that. What is that all about?
We just happened to be looking online, I don't even know why, and came across this name of an indigenous group in Quebec, I believe it was. And I looked up, what does that name mean? And it was like whitefish. And Sarah and I were like, there's this indigenous group who named themselves after whitefish. And no lack of respect is just like...
You then called up your intellectual property attorney to see if that was still a valid held trademark.
I just thought it was so amazing that there was
still in force?
Who named themselves after this amazing fish, to think that there was a group of people who must have relied on them so extensively.
Where were they from?
I think it was Quebec, as I'm recalling. And Sarah
and they're still coming down here stealing all those fish. I knew it.
It was just amazing to think that there was a group that like, this is how we're going to represent ourselves to the rest of the world, indigenous.
Well, it's not like they weren't limited in what they could call themselves after.
Here's what's interesting to me about that, because a few years ago when you guys started your community, I said, what are you going to name it? You're going to have to come up with a cool totem. I was like, how about People of the Brook Trout? Now, if you had asked me a week ago, like, what if you were going to be a people of what would you be? I'd be like, oh, easy. Like, there's a lot of things I like to eat, but I'd be like brook trout. And today we caught a nice brook trout, right? Nice brook trout. And to me, I was like,
color here is
I mean, that salmon color.
Pale.
It's like, no, it's peachy orange.
Yes.
I mean, electric almost, like the color of the coals in that fire right there.
Right.
Bright orange. And it was like, whatever. Slide that thing to the side. I'm just,
brook trout's amazing.
And I love brook trout.
It's amazing.
But it's changed for me in this last 2 days, you know. And on that note, I mean, it's getting cold out here. It's getting later, and we're going to go out with you again tomorrow. You're going to take us back out. I'm really excited about now that I have a sense of how the game works.
Yep.
And we'll go back out, be the people of the whitefish.
Just for the day.
Even with the wind, I was just about as happy as can be. And then we're heading back down south, but it seems like this will be, I'm going to make this a regular.
Awesome.
What we're hoping
this is a pilgrimage now.
It is, yeah.
We want to come in the winter for ice fishing because it's a totally different game.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And then come in the summer and it's
enjoy both seasons.
Yeah, it's a special place.
Now, here's the final question for everybody. and I'll go around. Maybe we'll do a yes, no, or you can give a short caveat, and then based on group consensus, we'll decide what to do. But
Are we all going to move here?
yeah, no,
Yes.
that's after we take off the headsets. We'll discuss that. The question is this: do we reveal the location? Because here's the conundrum. There is a fantastic guide to my right who makes his living here, and this lovely campsite that we're at, and they make their living, bringing people here and sharing this place and sharing this ecosystem. And then there's one person here who benefits from us talking about where we are. Then there's 3 people mic'd up and a 4th one running the soundboard who it's in their best interest to keep it a secret because this is our coveted heritage fishery. And the question is, do we remain an undisclosed location or do we share it? And Sarah's already fuming. Look at her. She's so mad.
I can't even believe this is on the table right now.
Yeah, well, we can edit anything we want. It's editing magic.
That's right.
All right, let's start with you, Arthur. Let's get some opinions. And this is a complicated question, too.
Well, if someone did their research, they could probably
No, they
figure it out.
but you know how lazy people are. People are lazy.
It's easy.
And bored and distracted
well,
easily.
if they're so lazy, then if we tell them, they're probably not going to come here.
Well, now suddenly you want to tell
true.
people?
That is true.
I
just want to say this is
devil's
a
advocate.
this is a okay. I'm going to give one more piece and then I'm going to turn it over to you guys. The complication here, I don't know if it's implicit in the question. It's complicated by this. It's conservation through use, and this is something it seems like everything we do, everything Arthur and I have ever collaborated on comes back to this: conservation through use. If people don't have a love and a passion for a place, which usually comes from taking something from that place. If you don't have a food or a medicine or something that you've done, a ceremony in a place, then when they decide they want to put a Walmart there, you're distracted by something shiny and glittery and you don't care because you have no stake or skin in the game.
You're certainly not going to dish out any of your resources.
Exactly. If I heard they were going to put a Walmart right there, I would chain myself to the dock.
Probably just post on Facebook a little bit about it.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, I'd put up a baby sloth and talk about how cute it was. So that said, right, so that's one of the complications. But, so here's the thing. Part of why, and Sarah, earlier, you were asking me about what are my motivations behind WildFed, and big piece of it is recruitment. Because, wow, this is a long caveat.
Is that a bat?
No, it's a moth.
Massive. It's either a polyphemus or a cecropia.
Whoa, nerd alert. Nerd alert.
Sorry, it is.
Jeez.
Massive.
I'm like, I love you.
Major
It's
nerd
pretty
alert
freaking
right
big.
there.
I know that.
It
was shadowing my
Friggin'
head.
The Latin lover.
I'm going to go catch one.
Dude, the Latin lover.
So we can,
All right.
But
all right, wait,
yes.
wait. Where was I going? Somebody catch me back. Where was I just now?
The conundrum.
But I was talking
Your
about
recruitment.
recruitment. Thank you.
WildFed.
Here's the complication. Recruitment. Here's something that's really fascinating. I'm serious. This is going to be fascinating. Are you guys even ready for this?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, here we go. If you think about what's funding the conservation effort in Maine, for instance, I know inland fisheries and wildlife is 75% funded by the tax money on guns, ammunition, and hunting equipment.
Pittman Robertson.
Thank you. Without Pittman
Finally, my degree for
75%. All right, now get this. There's obviously conversation in the United States about banning guns. If we did, what would fund inland fisheries and wildlife? We would have to find new money.
Dingle Johnson.
Well,
Act.
that's fisheries. Okay, Dingle Johnson.
Did I try and throw
You're
too
so
many out
good.
there?
You're so good. I like it. All right, here's my
Trying
point.
to keep up
All
with
right,
Arthur
let's
here?
bring it back a
His
notch.
Latin.
Okay, so the point is, why do WildFed? Because recruitment's really important. Arthur, you get back away from that moth. We
wanted
need you on
to
this
go
headset.
back.
You're going next. You are such a nerd. All right, no, that is a cool
He's
moth,
on to
though.
the moth.
God, it's the Mothman prophecy taking place right behind me.
Wow.
All right, he's got it.
Do
You're
a
really
little pause here?
making light of my super profound and
Sorry,
deep point,
it's
Arthur.
really good. But
All right, hold on. Can I turn a light on?
yeah, please. Look at this thing. Whoa. Look at the eye spots.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Cool. And look at the end.
Yeah, wow.
That's really
And
cool.
this is the small one. There was
Oh
a bigger
my
one.
God.
What is the genus?
This
You're
is, I gotta
so
look. It's either
beautiful.
Polyphemus or Cecropia, and I always
Nerd.
We
one
get the
has
big,
eye
big.
spots and one doesn't.
Another couple weeks, the big green ones.
Oh yeah, the Luna moths.
Oh, the
yeah.
Lunas. They're huge.
No problem. Thanks for distracting me from my point. All right. Anyway, the point is this: why do WildFed? Except that if we don't get recruitment into hunting and fishing could go the way of the dinosaur or the way whitefish went through most of the state. So,
Right.
telling people about the place, my point being, could really keep this fishery intact in a way, I don't know, that many things haven't been kept intact. But talking about it also means we create competition for the thing that we love, and that's the conundrum. So given that, Arthur, take it away.
We tell them, but we also tell them that there are several amazing whitefish lakes in this region.
Go to those.
Go to those. Because they're slightly closer.
Yeah, Bill's like, no. Bring them here.
I agree.
Distribute the pressure.
Right.
So that some come here, some go to Chamberlain, some go to Big Eagle, some go to West Grand Lake. But yeah, we tell them.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wait, real quick, Grant.
I agree. I say yes. Preservation through use.
Sarah, lay it on us. Sarah, your love for whitefish exceeds anybody here, and therefore your opinion carries like 2
I
votes
count
and
like
not
a few.
1.
I mean, I do feel conflicted here because I think a lot of the times people, in myself included, I see somebody do something and I get excited about it, and then I immediately go and try and do it without even watching somebody who's been doing it for years.
Or looking into the backstory.
Or doing anything. I'm just like, I can do this.
Yeah.
I want one. I'll take 2.
But then I do think, if we are not interacting with these landscapes, nobody's going to be protecting them.
Arthur, you're so proud right now.
Tricky question, eh?
What am I, your child?
No. I mean,
No, you're my
are you?
spouse. And I yours.
No. It's really romantic. It's a lot of silence on the mic.
I mean, are we doing that summer camp thing where people come here? We could vet people.
Yeah, I mean, we should vet people, but at least they're listening to this.
But you're leaning toward yes.
Yeah, we can all see it.
All right.
Yeah.
You don't even have to say it. It's on your face.
That way, yeah. Don't say it. That way you don't ever feel responsible
That way, if
later.
in 10 years it's like,
You're like,
guys, there's no whitefish here. I'm
I
like,
never
oh,
voted.
I didn't
We
say
blamed it on Sarah.
Yeah, I played it neutral.
It's because she smiled and said nothing.
Nothing,
Just
yeah.
kept smiling.
She's like, she's wearing a shirt. I'm Switzerland. Dude.
Yeah, I'm
There you
Canada.
go.
with one last thing, too.
I'm
I
Canada,
think
except for the overfishing of whitefish.
no matter what we decide anyways, I think that it's not like the fate of this lake is in
Right.
our hands. We're
Right.
not.
Right, but you've got
Famous
some.
We're
last
trying to preserve
words.
what's already here.
You have some extreme advocates now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Mother Earth will restore her balance.
she always does.
Like it or not.
Lay it on us, Bill. What do you think?
My first thing is say yes. I mean, this is what I do for a livelihood. I've been doing it for 30 years. If I could do it for 30 more, I'd be very, very happy. My big thing with this is I think we've got the fishery where we need it. I'd like to see a little bit different regs for the ice fishing part of it.
Tightened up a little bit.
I would, because I mentioned a few minutes ago about those fish that are so close, that 17 and a half to, or even 17, they get brought up in that, 0 or 10 degree weather, and they really take
It's
a
cold
beat. It
here.
is cold. It's
Yeah.
hard on those fish. And
Right.
You think you got one, and
Where are you going to put them? Where are you going to put them when you?
So
when you
my
measure
thought,
'em?
and Donna, we've talked and we've had this discussion many, many times about, well, do we make it a one fish limit in the ice fishing season? Anything like over 13 inches or 14 inches, one fish, keep it.
Because that way, if it comes up and you're looking at it through
Right.
the ice hole and you're saying, no,
You
you
can
can
cut
leave it in
Absolutely.
the water and take the hook
Absolutely.
out so that you don't harm that fish.
That or cut it off. It's a 2-cent hook.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
whack the hook off. As far as the open water fishery goes here, it's whether we promote this 110% tonight, it's not going to get any more than what it is right now. I don't see it.
So all the newcomers come during summer.
Well, if you want to come fish these things, come with us. I mean, I'm not.
No. This is
It
where
is
you do
my
that.
business.
Do
That's
that,
what
do
I
that
do
now,
for a
though.
livelihood.
Because my next
But don't-
question is how do people work with you and how
Don't
do they
trailer
get here?
your boat in here.
Really?
I mean-
yeah. No, that's good. I mean,
Really.
after Arthur hit the that massive sinkhole in the road at
Well,
30, I think.
So you show up here. You brought your
Mariana's
16-foot
Trench.
boat in here. You came with all your fishing gear, all your tackle. And
Good
you don't have the right tackle to fish for these things.
what a specific tackle box too. I mean, right?
Absolutely.
What
It
a
is
specific.
Yeah. It's very, very.
And I feel like we forgot to mention too that there's the game warden out in the winter, and he's
Oh,
gonna be
the
making
boogeyman.
sure. Yeah, Goog Edge.
The boogeyman.
He'll get you, so don't have to worry about it.
I loved your story. I thought it was
All right,
awesome.
now you got to
I
tell that
really-
story.
no.
You have
I
to.
thought it
You
was
have to.
awesome. Donald
Tell it.
sent that to me, and I sat down and I read that, and it was like, this is so awesome.
It is a good
Was it
point.
awesome?
Let's talk about
no,
this.
it
This is the
wasn't
moment to
awful.
talk
It was
about
awesome.
This is like I feel like I find it strange that I end up defending inland fish and wildlife to you guys. But because I'm just such an outlaw myself, I just find it odd that I'm like, no, guys, they're really out there for our better. I don't know. But anyway, tell this story because it's
They are,
fascinating.
but
story.
you know, you have to draw the line with common sense.
Well, and Don's story the other day about the guy that waited for the family to catch like
Hundreds.
200 brook trout, and then
Oh,
the
that's-
guy's like,
All right,
I'm
wait,
gonna
no,
look
wait,
good
don't
today
talk
at my
about the
job."
story. Tell the stories
Yeah.
because the other
Okay.
people are going to be like, what are they talking about?
We were here in the winter, and you're allowed one fish for each
Whitefish.
license holder.
Talking about whitefish.
Yeah, we're talking about whitefish, and it has to be 18 inches long. So Sarah and I, our second whitefish, I think, that came up through the whole she catches one. It is a legal fish, and we're like very excited, lots of gratitude because this is the first time we've seen this fish, and we're excited about it. And so now it's me running to all the ice traps. Well, I run to an ice trap. We've gotten a flag. When a fish pulls that line, it trips and a flag goes up to let us know, hey, there's somebody yanking on this fish line. And I run over, and we catch one, but it's too small. It's 15 or 16 inches long. And I'm over there now trying to get the hook off because I want to get this thing down in the water with the least amount of damage. And we have another flag go up. Now, what I should have done is said, Sarah, take care of this. I'm going to go get that flag because she's technically already caught her fish.
But also, I didn't know that. I thought we could walk away
With
each
two
with
fish,
a fish.
because, yeah. But
I didn't know it mattered so much who caught it.
Well, that's where we're going with this. In the heat of the moment, because I've already got my bare hands out, they're already wet with this fish, and I'm trying to get the hook out.
A day of ice fishing sometimes can feel like a survival situation.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to set the fish down and tell Sarah to take care of this while I now run, because remember, she's caught her fish. I say, Sarah.
You also don't want to leave a flag up too
I
long
don't,
without
and-
being there because you
because
lose fish that way.
Not only do you
Oh, and the
lose
line's
fish,
going out.
the
Yeah,
lines,
exactly.
and the fish has a
Tangling.
hook in its mouth, and we're also not just going to be like, just wait 5 or 10 minutes, I'll be over to get you, because we actually, yes, we're killing these fish, but we actually don't want to cause more pain than we have to. So Sarah runs over to get that fish. I finish putting this away. She lands another legal fish.
You guys are thinking, great, we've got our two whitefish. Let's
Two
move
fish,
on to
Oh,
toad.
two
yeah.
licenses. So Googedge, Eastern Abenaki name for the game warden, which translates, it means boogeyman. googedge, we call
This was a word that would have already been in the lexicon and then got applied to
That's exactly right.
to the
did
game
get
warden.
applied.
So they already had a
If
boogeyman,
you're
and then the game
a
warden became
hunter-gatherer
that.
group who can now
Right,
no
yeah,
longer
that's
hunt,
true.
The
Yeah.
game warden
That's
is
true.
the boogeyman.
That's legit. I'll give you that.
And so we're just straight up totally honest with this person. He's
Well, we
been-
didn't even know.
Yeah, but we were also honest.
he comes up to you and he says,
Right.
"What?"
Right.
Well, we've been talking to him for 10 minutes. He was really friendly. We're telling jokes.
Well, that's a good cop move. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
You do want to get a little conversation going
It's a
if you want to
typical
get.
game warden.
And so he says, I need
But there's
to see
also
your
that there, and I'll
licenses.
add this.
Yep.
I think the general lore around the state is this: if a game warden is, if you've done something and the game warden shows up, he's already seen you do it with binoculars from
Well,
a distance,
this is
and now he's coming up to
questionable, though.
confirm it.
This
In
is
this
my-
case,
I'm not saying he did or not. I'm just saying
yeah.
Many
one of the things you
times.
always hear is that
He
they
waited
first
4
watch you,
hours.
they get you to do it, or not. I'm sorry. They watch you, they see you do it, then they come ask you, and then if you lie, now
Oh,
you're
yeah.
digging yourself a hole.
Absolutely.
Right.
and I know this, but he comes and he checks our licenses, and then he asks to see our fish. We show him we have 2 legal fish, and he's like, "Who caught this one?" And I'm like, "Sarah did." And who caught this one? And I'm like,
You're like,
it's happening at the same time. I'm being totally honest. Sarah caught that. I'm recognizing, and he's like, "Well, you can't do that." And I went, "Yeah, but we have 2 licenses." And he's like, "It doesn't matter." I'm taking the fish, and
I
he,
start tearing up.
and he fines Sarah $160 approximately. Okay, but this is what actually happened, though. People, when you ask people what is a game warden's purpose, they say, "Oh, it's to write tickets to protect wildlife." Well, it's to protect the resource, and they do that through writing tickets and arresting people.
This is basic
Or the threat
operant
of the-
conditioning.
right,
you
right.
get
Right.
you get a negative response, which
Right.
should help to keep you from doing that in the future.
However, what happened in this case is more fish came out because when he took what was now technically Sarah's second fish,
You got a third fish.
You
Yeah,
had
we
not.
dropped our line.
Arthur,
put our lines back
you
in.
Arthur had not committed any violation. Therefore,
so now
you
we
can
took
continue fishing.
Another fish out of the
Sarah
lake.
now has
Which
her.
doesn't make any sense.
So now you leave with having killed 3 fish.
And there's not a single person that we have told the story to that didn't say, "We understand your dilemma," and the game warden should have said, "That's illegal what you did. Don't ever do it again."
Right,
and now
we
you
would-
can't fish
and
another
we
one
would have
because you
said-
guys are splitting
and we-
those.
That's right. And we would have said, "Thank you. We understand that
Yeah.
you could have fined us and you didn't. We appreciate that. And we were not trying to break the law."
Mm-hmm.
And more fish came out of the lake as a result of that just carte blanche, follow the rules no matter what. The game warden didn't exercise judgment and cost the lake.
For clarity,
Yep.
because lest somebody get confused here, this is complicated because we got ourselves in a really bad situation with unregulated hunting and fishing. Now, granted, that wasn't. Some was subsistence. Most of it was market hunting. I mean, we exterminated the passenger pigeon from the planet, right? This is shocking stuff. So regulation, I think, is really valuable, particularly in this day and age, particularly with people who don't know how to value.
Disputing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of bring that part up because it's not the issue that you're having is that, well, I guess just describe it a little more because without
How about
this,
another story might help? Don
Okay,
was telling us
tell the other story.
yesterday that there was a
Oh, yeah.
googedge watching a family,
Googedge.
and
And
this
wait, they had
person,
a
there was a
freeze-
5
The
limit
boogeyman.
take
trout.
on brook trout.
They had a freezer and a generator to keep the freezer so they could fill it.
And this family,
It's like I see both sides. I'm like, well, that's pretty badass. I mean, if you're gonna poach, bring a freezer and a generator, I suppose.
I was
mean,
here.
Were
Not
you?
here, but I was in the North Maine Woods and the
Yeah.
stall took place.
Right.
Yeah.
So they
no,
have a freezer, they have a generator to power the freezer, and they are just taking how many brook trout out of here?
everything. Everything is legal.
From 3 to 20. He said they were just
3
taking
inches
to 20
Yeah.
inches. They kept
The
everything.
If it
thing
was
is a 3-inch brook trout eats pretty good. I mean,
If it was a brook trout, they kept it.
yeah, okay.
And they get to some crazy number like, what did he say, Sarah? Like 200 or something.
Yeah, because what happens is with a brook trout limit in a brook, you're allowed 5 brook trout.
Right.
Once you exceed 5, number 6
violation.
writes you a violation. Number 7 is a $25 fish. Number 8's a $25 fish. Number 9's a $25 fish. So every fish beyond number 6 has a price value on it.
Right.
So when you count to 200, which in my mind, they've already broke the law at number 6.
That's right.
Write them up.
And that's
You're
what
not
we agreed
protecting
with
the resource.
because they
Exactly.
didn't protect the resource. They
Exactly.
went for a big bust.
Yeah, but now here. Okay, hang on. You got a generator and a freezer with you. A slap on the wrist at this point. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Going up to somebody who's come with the intention of poaching to the level that they have brought a generator and a freezer, and being like, guys, you can't do that. So here's a written warning, and I'd ask you not to do it again.
I'm not disputing, but
200. And it's a little excessive. Yeah, it's
Right.
a little excessive.
It's just
How bad
again,
did they decimate our brooks?
Yeah.
And
pretty
so
bad.
if your job is to actually protect the resource, sometimes you're not going to go for the big bus. Sometimes you're going to say, "Shit, I see this is complicated. You have 2 licenses, you caught 2 fish, but you caught both of them. But I know that
Your instance is so different too. These two stories are so different.
because we were not actually attempting to do anything
Right.
wrong.
You would have, and it would have. I mean, especially like if you're a couple. I feel like that's
We
where it's especially
function
like
as a team all
like your
the time.
taxes are joint. It's
Yeah,
like you
yeah.
should be
Like,
able
if we
to.
could just be one, I'd be happy.
Well,
with that.
maybe the state's got to look at something like, a party fishing or group fishing.
Yeah, exactly.
If there's 4 in a group,
And you got 4 licenses.
Well, we
This
hear
is
this.
what's allowed.
We hear other stories of this where there's been 4 guys. They're fishing on a nice stream all day.
Right.
Somebody's
Oh.
downed 1 fish. Friend catches a 6 fish, throws it to a friend. So they all have.
the
5
problem is where you go then. Oh well, I'm gonna have my
good.
wife get another deer tag, and I'm gonna go out and hunt 2 deer
no, you
this
got to
year.
be in possession though. You've got to have the people present.
Yeah,
I've got people
okay.
coming here Wednesday.
Right.
3 years ago, they got busted for that.
Your dog
the guy
is
had
ripping on
4.
that fish over there.
The guy had 4. He caught 6.
Oh,
he
wow.
knew the guy needed 1 more. One watched him do it.
Oh, okay.
Brought him a ticket.
We were
if-
leaving.
If you had a party, a party of 5, you allowed 25 trout. You guys all fish together on the brook. You got 25 trout. There should be no issue.
Okay, wait, one more devil's advocate, though. Part of what the limits are based on is success rate, right?
Yeah.
They know if they're talking about issuing, what did I tell you the other day? Something like 87,000 doe tags in the state this year, anticipating a 10% success rate. Right. So if we did it that way, we would start to increase success rate, and that could actually have a major impact on populations that you wouldn't have because somebody might fail.
I don't know if you'd want to go to that with deer, though. I mean,
well, but I'm just saying, like the idea is like if we go out as a party, we have 4 of us, and we can each take 5 brook trout, a total of 20, and we all go out and we do it honestly according to the rules. Maybe you only get 3, you get 2, I get 5, of course, and you get 1. And then we leave. But if we all can work as a team, now you've got synergy going, and maybe
Daniel,
you end
I
up
don't
taking.
like where this conversation is going anymore.
So I've applied for a game warden position. All right, let's get back on track here.
Right.
Bill, somebody wants to come fish with you. They want to come stay here at the camps. What is this body of water? Where are we? And how do they get a hold of you guys?
well, we're in Ross Lake Camps.
There it is. It's out now.
It is. It's
Ouch.
it's T10R15.
And the
North Maine Woods.
there's a second name to the lake.
Quassabamtcook.
There you go. That's what we should have said from the beginning, and
yeah.
people would have been like, "What?"
Where there is a long lake and rocks.
That's what it
Or-
means.
You know,
The lake that
if
looks
you
like a
if you
sock.
really want to come fish with us, Ross Lake Camps at info.com or Ross Lake Camps on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
It's where it's at. I mean,
It's amazing.
it is. It's an amazing experience.
And you guys are awesome.
Come fish with us.
Goog edge.
I want to say
much.
this too. I want to say that the rates are incredible. I won't say what they are because
Right.
things are subject to
Right.
change, but the rates are
Absolutely.
incredible, not only for lodging but also for the guided day out. So I think really, really fair there. And you can drive here, or there's
You
one
can
guy
fly
staying
in.
here with a
Yeah,
with a
you can
float
fly
plane
in.
right
Yeah.
now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
Bring your suitcase.
This
Yeah, that's all you need.
this is not an expensive vacation. is what I'm getting at. You do not need to be wealthy to come here.
Yeah.
The rates are very reasonable. If you have the money to go camping in the White Mountains or whatever,
good point.
you can come here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Well, on that note, I just want to say thank you for an awesome day out today.
You're more
We
than
had a
welcome.
great time.
Do it again tomorrow.
One last
We're
thing.
gonna.
Don't forget.
All right, so we're gonna close out with this. Bill has something really cool here. He has a Bud Light wrapped in a birch bark beer koozie, and he has got some birch bark moose calls. And because he guides moose, he knows his way around a moose call. And we are gonna listen to, and we're gonna close this thing out. So, has anybody got any final parting words before we do this?
Just thanks,
I love
Daniel, for letting us
Whitefish.
be part
Oh,
of this.
thank you for being here. We are gonna listen to
Thank you.
Bill play the role of. Are you gonna be a male moose or a female
I'm gonna
moose?
do a little cow moose call, little cow moose. Something.
Maybe you do call and response. You can do them both, huh?
I can do a little grunt after.
All right, let's hear him. And now we're going to close it out like that.
Little cow in heat. Start out with just a little whine. We get a little bit more as in heat. And the bull grunts. We'll leave it at that.
Ross Lake Camps. Check them out at what's the website?
RossLakeCamps.com.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the WildFed podcast. You can help us grow the show by subscribing and leaving us a rating and review. It ensures better rankings and more advertiser interest, which translates directly into better shows, more awesome guests, and a constant stream of fresh, new content. Have a question you'd like answered on the show, or a hunting, fishing, or foraging trip you'd like to host us on? Email us at info@wild-fed.com. And be sure to visit our website, wild-fed.com, to check out the WildFed video show and store. WildFed. Food is all around you.